Welcome to the Blades of Steel podcast. I'm Kevin Truss with my co-host, Senor Jesse Christensen.
Senor.
Yeah. Just trying to mix things up a little bit because in studio with us today, we have, this is maybe our first like real celebrity. Like
For sure. The biggest celebrity we've ever had in studio.
So Shawn Finnegan, there's I'm going to actually let you give us kind of your bio because there's so many things that you're into. But dude, I'm really excited to be here with you. Before we get into your bio though, we just shared an experience last week.
We did.
And it was
pretty epic.
We were about 12 feet away from Billy Corgan together.
Yeah.
And it was a spiritual experience.
It was amazing. And if you want to go and have a good time at a concert, go with these two guys.
Oh,
Kevin and Senior.
Sweet.
Senior Christians.
You know, they're infectious when they're at a concert because
Immediately
Kevin
been called infectious. Yeah, for sure.
So Kevin took his shirt off. Like, how long did that take? Like 10, 15 minutes in, you had your shirt off.
We were a couple songs. Yeah. I let the band warm up along with me, but
he must have been really comfortable around you because I've never seen him just rip his shirt off
really?
before.
Dude, that was. I'm glad I witnessed that. I was a part of that.
It was good.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my only problem with the concert. Great concert. Stone Temple Pilots opened. It was fun. Bullet Over Butterfly Wings came on. It's a requirement. The shirt has to come off and you have to mosh, right?
Right.
Well, luckily they let us get through the whole song moshing, but then the security came up and they were like, hey, per request from the band, like there's no moshing. We cannot let you mosh. And they literally, it's
a travesty. I
know they stuck a babysitter on me. I had a guy with a very long beard and he was very, straight off of Lord of the Rings. If he would have protected Frodo like he was watching me, that would have been one movie. There would no need for 3 movies if that guy was in the mix because he was on the ball. Anytime I'd start jumping around, he put his hand on my lower back very gently.
You had a handler.
I really had a handler, and it was fantastic.
That's amazing.
I just told him, I was like, well, thanks for at least letting me do it. That's like my go-to karaoke song. Like I had to mosh for that.
Yeah.
Secretly, I might have been a little bit happy because, dude, I was winded.
You were winning.
One song in. You know how we were talking about going to Flogging Molly and we're going to mosh the whole time?
It's gonna be nuts.
One song in, dude, I was beat.
I took 3 breaks during
one song.
Jordan Pendleton. Now, seeing Jordan Pendleton in a mosh pit was literally bucket list, one of the greatest moments of my life. But the second he got in there, I was like, I can't breathe. And I had to, not only did I have to remove myself from the pit, Shawn, I had to go so far that people couldn't just push me back in. I couldn't breathe for 4 verses.
Dude, the pro tip for me is going in a mosh pit with you, Kevin, and Jordan.
Yeah,
these guys were all jacked. You can see it in the photo here. They were so jacked. I was like, just I'm fine in this mosh
There
pit.
were 2 bears in that mosh pit as well.
Well, Shawn,
do you think that they actually requested that, or do you think it's just like
No,
do you think it was just the demographic of middle-aged people who are like, dude, what the hell?
This is what I think it is.
We don't want you to
We're
mosh.
old and tired.
If you're gonna chastise somebody, if you give an argument that you can't argue back on, then you're gonna get what you want. And I think that they found if I'm a bouncer then you just blame it on. Hey,
Respect
you
the
paid
band.
to see the band. The lead singer of the band that you paid to see has requested this. I love it when you mosh, but there's nothing I can do. Billy Corgan. I'm like, oh yeah, Billy Corgan wants us to all calm down. I don't think he just called me a ghoul. Okay, I don't think he's trying to calm me down. But fun
that's
concert.
a first, right? Is that your first handler, or is this a common occurrence at
a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
His first handler at a concert. I've seen that happen at church a few times.
Yeah, church has got a bouncer, just keeping an eye on you.
At a church and at buffets.
Yeah.
It's very, the best thing a buffet can do is sick somebody on me right at the start and just make sure I'm finishing my plates, We can't make you stop eating, but we can make sure that you finish your plates. Hey, I'm sweating so bad. I did an hour.
Look like you're in a mosh pit right now.
An hour on the stair stepper, Shawn, this morning.
You're still burning, dude.
I can't seem to calm down.
Yeah.
I can't seem to get this metabolism
those
to slow
abs
down.
don't come easy, right? You got to spend time on stair steppers, bro.
I can tell I'm beating up, dude. Not to mention it's so hot in here. Okay.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, wait, so who's this Shawn guy? What does he do? I feel like every time I explain it, it's a little different because you do a lot of things. And I usually kind of default to, I promise you, he knows everybody and he's just the most willing to help person I've ever met. And that's so refreshing in a business world where people are usually have hidden agendas or just like an end goal in mind when they go into things. And I really we've known you long enough. Like that's just like not how you operate. And it's like the greatest compliment I can give, but it's hard to explain it. So I would love for our listeners, for all of our fans, to hear from you. Give us the story of Shawn Finnegan. Like how did you get to where you are? And like what are the things, what is your job description?
So also, Shawn, the real reason we had you on, we've been friends for like a year now. I know what you currently do. Yeah. But I don't know how you got there. And I felt like too uncomfortable to ask. Like the real reason we had you on was just like
just find out what's in the past.
I need to know Shawn's mysterious past.
I need to know your past.
This is like the hero's journey. Your whole
it's kind of boring. So I'm gonna make a really quick. I'm gonna make a quick background. Love it. Then we'll jump in. How about that?
Deal.
So I literally was raised by a father right here in Orem who was a bookstore manager for 40 years. So he knew down to the penny. He was a BYU bookstore manager for 40 years. Wow. Can you believe that? He stayed at one spot. He graduated from there and stayed there forever.
It's wild.
And he knew down to the penny how much he was going to make, but we had 5 kids with a bookstore salary. It wasn't going well. So I have this mom who's straight out of Scotland. She immigrated from Scotland to here. And so she still has a thick Scottish accent to this day.
Can you go thick Scottish accent?
Oh, I can. I can understand.
You can?
Oh, I.
Do you? Do you want to say the rest of your story in a Scottish accent?
And do it the whole thing in a Scottish accent?
Or the whole pod?
Yeah, I could. I mean, I'm talking to my aunties who are all nutty Scottish people. But my mom is the original. She was one of the original side hustles. So she was like, hey, we've got 5 kids. We got to make this thing work. And so I really learned, like she started a preschool, had 50 kids coming in twice or 3 times a day to do preschool. Started matching almost what my dad made. And we were her marketing team. We'd go out and do leaflets and go close. And so I learned early on, I wanted to be that side hustle, go out and risk it all. Don't know how much I'm going to make. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I learned it all from my mom. That's awesome. And I started at a young age. So I sold stuff constantly. I love salespeople. You guys work in sales. I love good salespeople.
Turns out.
Work is a loose term.
Yeah, work is a loose term.
But thanks for the compliment.
So I was like, I realized early on you can sell products. It's like, it's crazy. You can go to your neighbors. I would sell them all the time. And it got to the point where I didn't have to give a sales presentation. I just get up and stand up. I had these pencils. I remember I had camouflage pencils.
Oh, shit, Shawn's here he is. Wallet out.
He's standing on it. I was like, I just hold up the pencils because I had these camouflage pencils I buy for like a nickel and sell for 25 cents. And I just crushed it. So like I learned early on, I was like, I want to be in sales. I want to be an entrepreneur. And that's really how I've spent my life. Now, you fast forward to today, I'm partners with Kevin O'Leary, the Shark Tank guy. We run a company called TaxHive. And we're neighbors to you guys across the street. And I had a business fail years ago, like in 2009, miserably. And I realized I needed to start building relationships with people. And since 2009, I've reached out of my lane. I've gotten comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I've built relationships. So I've been doing it a long time. So that's what drives me.
Well, and yeah, I mean, there's like an interesting landscape, especially, I mean, we have listeners all over the world, Shawn, but in Utah, specifically in Utah County, there is like an interesting world of like networking and relationships where, unfortunately, not everybody has the best intentions. Unfortunately, not everyone is just generally trying to help and connect and things. And so, but you really have set yourself apart as like a connector without strings attached, which honestly, like the key to business, if you can be that guy, then everyone wants to do business with you, right? And I don't think it's even calculated. I do think it's genuine because I don't think you can fake that. Yeah. But how often how often do you feel like you're connecting people and providing value for people where it doesn't come back, like where there's not a return for it?
So I tell everyone.
He's like, beside you two?
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
I already know the value.
A year of putting up with you two, and all I got was an invite to your podcast.
And Smashing Pumpkins. And we have another big activity coming up in 2 weeks.
We're going to reveal that in a minute.
All right. We'll hold that. That'll be the big cliffhanger. They're going to leave them all on. And in 2 weeks, something's coming up.
Keep listening. Yeah. Everyone in Netherlands, keep listening.
It may involve another handler. I'm not sure.
Is that how you got to us? You thought you were texting Kevin O'Leary?
Yeah, I thought so.
Like, oh,
yeah, wait a minute. Is this Trost? Who the hell is this? Yeah, who is this?
Similar haircut.
No, I just tell people it's kind of a grind at the same time. So I tell people if that's really what you want to do, I believe that you can increase your net worth by the size of your network. I'm a huge believer in it. But at the same time, you cannot go around and just try to sell everyone. It's like just exactly what you said. You try to do that, and what are you going to do? It's not effective. You're not going to sell. But I believe at the same time in doing transactions, if it makes sense, if there's a good business alignment and you both can benefit from it, then do the transaction. Don't shy away from saying, hey, the way to build real relationships is doing some business together.
So how do you decide who you? I mean, you got to a point where you get approached. I can't even imagine. And you're saying yes to projects, no to projects, looking at them, not willing to look at them. I'm sure. What are the deciding factors when you not just looking like at an opportunity, but who you want to work with? Because I know that's important to you. What is it that you look for? And give some guidance there, because a lot of the listeners probably. Don't get approached as often. And so when they do, like having some guidance on what things somebody like you is looking for would be, I think, valuable.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah. So I always tell people first start with your phone, because they always ask, hey, where do I start? Like, I bet you if I look at your phone, you have in the thousands of contacts in your phone. And you could start here. Start with texting 5 people a day and building your network. That's like a no-brainer. Literally, when I started this thing, I pulled up a spreadsheet and it came up with a list. I had 2,800 contacts. I narrowed down to 400 that I should talk to. So I put it on a spreadsheet, and I just started reaching out, and miracles happen. If you just tell people your intentions, what your business are, if it's not a fit for them, then they're going to find someone in their network that's a fit, and you start getting referrals back. But I'm a big believer in affiliates. You guys have all done affiliates, and I'm so shocked that most business owners don't have an affiliate program. I mean, this is like we're going through a horrible time in the economy. A lot of people are taking on the lumps. It's like, why would you not go out and start an affiliate program? You're paying someone based on a percentage of what they bring in for you in sales. It's an absolute no-brainer. So if you have a following and I have a following and that we can mutually benefit from a relationship, put that in the no-brainer category and go after it.
You made a comment earlier. I don't know exactly what you said, but I want to swing back to it. I've been friends with Kevin for 20 years, you for the last year. I think I'm not going to put myself on your guys' level of like how you reach out like this constantly, right? And I wouldn't call myself an introvert or an extrovert. In fact, probably just depends on the day, right? But I'm someone who definitely, Kevin knows from being friends with me, like how many times you've been to my house to hang out in the last 20 years, right?
I believe his quote is, we work together. We see each other enough.
We see him in the mosh pit.
There's definitely...
I try to set up weekly play dates.
Yeah.
There's definitely a part of me that sometimes really has to get up for like, okay, we're going out and I'm going to a party or a networking event or a concert, whatever it might be. And then there's times I purposely just have to turn it down because like, I don't think I have the energy for this, right? Like, people look at you guys and Kevin is like, oh, what a fun, easy job. You guys basically just make friends and party for a living.
Pretty much.
Right? Yeah. I think what people don't understand, though, is like it also takes a lot of your energy. It's exhausting, and you really need to be like a master of your calendar. Yeah. Which is the other thing that I struggle with of like these things. You and I have had it, right? Like you have these things you invite me to. I'm so excited. And I'm like, oh, man, I misread
You're
my
on
calendar.
your way to the event. And something happens.
Multiple. Yeah. Shawn thinks I'm the most full of shit person on earth. Because
no, it's my lifelong mission.
I've canceled. I'm trying to be your white whale.
Yeah.
How do you manage like the energy portion of it? And then also, managing things like, all right, well, you can't go out to a concert every night, events every night.
How do you prioritize?
You've also got your family, right?
So, I'm partners with business partners with Kevin O'Leary, right? Have you ever been around someone that's like so efficient, feel like with their time that you feel like a slacker? That's Kevin. Like if you're with him, he's scheduled on the 30, And 2 years ago, it was New Year's resolution time. And I was like, Kevin, what's your New Year's resolution? He's like, I got one. And I was like, what is it? And he's like, I want to be 10% more efficient with my time this year. And I'm thinking, where are you going to get 10%? Seriously, where are you going to get it? Because I've never seen anyone as busy as him ever. I mean, literally when I'm around him, he's so busy, I feel like I should be talking to my guys. Hey, Jesse, Kevin, what do we got in the business?
Oh, yeah, Kevin,
we need to get some guys on the line. He's that. And so I was like, how is he going to pull this off? And so a few months later, I saw him. I was like, hey, Kevin, how'd it go? How's it going on your New Year's resolution? And he said, I figured it out. I was like, what'd you do? And he's like, I looked at my calendar closely, and I figured out I have to eat food. And I might as well use that time to build relationships while I have food. So he has his assistant reach out. If he's going to San Diego, his assistant will go hit up the biggest business owner in San Diego and say, hey, Kevin wants to go to dinner with you. He brings a camera guy with him, and they film content, and he has dinner with that person. So for anyone watching, make sure you just pull out the calendar. I know that everyone's busy, but ever since he told me that, I was like, I'm not going to do lunch alone. I've had lunch with you guys a couple times.
That's an event.
Yeah.
Watching.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he was like, I was going to bring cameras, but then I saw the way you guys eat. No one wants to see that.
So 2 years ago, I said, I'm not going to have lunch alone Monday through Friday. And I've only had a couple of reschedules. But pound for pound, you get an hour with someone you have to eat. But it's the best hour.
Was that pound for pound kind of like a jab at us?
Yeah. Well, the scabs.
Pound for pound,
hey, I know this might be a little nerdy, but this is just for me specifically. Like, so how is there like one tool you use to integrate all of your like? For us, it's tough because we do a bunch of different stuff, right? We have our corporate stuff, we do the podcast, we have personal stuff, and so. Is there a tool, something you use to aggregate everything into one calendar? Like, what are some tips for some people to stay super organized?
So I wouldn't recommend...
You have multiple businesses.
Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend spreadsheets. That was sucky. I mean, picture me in the dinosaur age going down through each cell in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Saying I got it. So I use a company called Pitch 59. If you haven't met them yet, they're a great company. They're a startup here in Utah. They show people how to pitch their business in 59 seconds, an elevator pitch, and they film it and have it on. So if I want to introduce you to Kevin, I would just hit one button and it would actually show your video to Kevin and it would pitch you. So I'm probably doing a bad job.
How much better than that is a business card or a contact?
So much better. Because if I were to just, normally I just like, hey, Kevin, I want you to meet my buddy. I'm probably going to do a bad job introducing who you are versus you introducing who you are. So it's a 59-second that I just say, hey, check out this business. You need to connect with Jesse.
That's genius.
That's awesome.
They're great guys.
Jared, did you write that down?
Pitch 59.
I got it ingrained in my mind.
Jared, write it down.
Jared's going to call it Pitch 58. Yeah, you're always
it's like you're going to one-up it.
I'm going to one-up it.
Yeah, you should.
You can't sue me.
One down it.
Well, I want to dig in a little bit more there because I think there's a you do have multiple businesses. You do have a busy schedule. I consider you like a master networker. I really do.
Yep.
So the question of balance comes in, and that's something I've been like digging into is just like, where, like, if you follow my social media, like there's certain times where it seems like all I do is hang out with my kids, and there's certain times that you wonder if I have kids, right?
Yeah.
And it's like finding that balance is always tricky. What would be your advice as far as like work, family balance, and what does balance mean? Balance can't mean equal amount of time necessarily. Yep. So what does balance mean to you with one of the busiest guys I know? But you always seem available at the same time. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I think what most entrepreneurs do is they just do it by day. It's like, hey, let's just fill up my schedule.
Wing it.
And on the networking side, you might be spending your whole day with people who not necessarily a good alignment for your business. So you have to qualify your actual appointments, right?
I still don't know how we made the list.
You made the list. You're in my short list.
One day we're going to find out.
It's the secret
Why
list.
we're on this list.
I'm going to unveil
Sean keeps
one day
kidding.
the list.
Well,
you guys are on the top.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you made it on the podcast, which is usually the pinnacle of a relationship.
I like you guys hit me up. It's like I'm in. You had me. So I've read this book. Like schedule first the things that are the most important to you.
Non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Okay.
So schedule those first. So in the next month, what's your schedule for the most important things? Because if you don't do that, you're going to fill it with gravel. We can easily get hit on the hour.
What's your scheduling tool?
So I literally use the old school Outlook for mine and Calendly. So Calendly and Outlook and just all syncs up. It's super simple. But right now, for the next 2 weeks, I have my lunches blocked out. I have no lunches available for 2 weeks. Because that, for me, is an hour I get to spend with an entrepreneur and find possible alignment. Or if there's no alignment, then you get a fresh new perspective. We got problems running a business. And I love meeting. You get an hour of mentoring with someone who has got many years of experience, and you can tell them your problems. You get incredible training and alignment out of it.
That's awesome. So one thing I think that like I worry about is getting business ADD, where you're just you get so excited about what people are doing. Maybe you could get caught up in their 100%. Projects or distracted from your core thing. Do you, when you do these lunches and these meetups, do you kind of have like, this is my vision and my plan and where I'm going, and if you don't align, I'm not going to get distracted in your thing, but I'll just switch it into, this is a mentoring session where I get to be a student and learn from someone successful?
100%. So many people go to networking events. They go to big lunches like you've all been to. And most people go to network with people. But the vast majority of people don't actually even get someone's information.
How many new contacts did you get at that hour and a half lunch?
That's right. And no one even, very few get in actual contact, and then no one follows through.
And I know you're amazing at it, because I've had friends that we introduced you to that somehow forget, circle back to me and are like, hey, I want to introduce you to this guy, Shawn Finnegan.
It's like a circle.
You dumbass, we introduced you to him.
Exactly. It's like in the family tree.
We should talk with him.
Yeah, exactly. So what I do is I try to find a magnet in the room. And generally there's a magnet. Like I went to the Super Bowl last year with David Meltzer. You know who he is.
Yep.
He is one of the best networkers I've ever seen. And he is a true magnet. I mean, every hour, if you're with him, he has groups of people come in to meet with him. He is pulling in the people. And I hung out with him for 2 days. I got introduced to so many incredible contacts. It was insane. And the fact that David is introducing me to his friends personally, I got the best follow-up. But what I do is like, hey, great to connect. If I see there's an alignment, if there's not an alignment, hey, I just want to talk to you at the event and get some perspective. But if it's like, hey, I can do an affiliate deal here potentially, and there's really good possibilities in this relationship, I'm like, hey, how does your Tuesday afternoon look for a Zoom? I'd love to learn more about your business and how we can align. Or, hey, what's your schedule next week for lunch? I'd love to grab lunch. Wednesday, work for you? And I leave there with an appointment. If you don't do that, you get home, and then it's the most awkward thing ever. You got a text possibly with someone, and you're saying, hey,
it's like you're
Kevin,
16 and you're trying
Jesse,
to date again.
I met you the other day at the school dance, right? It's like way awkward, as opposed to, hey, on Wednesday next week, I'm connecting with Kevin and Jesse. So I have an actual appointment. Very few people do that. You could come away.
That's crazy. That it almost feels like common sense, but it also is. There's the lost art of just like boldly. It's the same with like are you a golfer?
I am. I golfed in my high school team. I was bad back then too.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're good. Wait,
I was
your
bad.
handicap?
I have all sorts of handicaps.
Also,
no, it's probably 18 right now.
Also, what does your next Tuesday morning look like?
Yeah, see, right here, he's following up.
Oh, I like
He's
this.
locking that down.
I'm being serious.
Are you golfing next
after.
Tuesday?
You are with us.
All right,
maybe.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm in.
We were texting about that this morning, actually. A
See
live
this?
invite?
We
this
need
is
a
practice.
fourth for the Siegfried and Jensen Utah Open.
As long as you don't want to win.
We don't care about winning.
All right. I'm in.
We care about looking the best.
Yeah. You would have invited me if you wanted to win.
Oh, there you go, right here.
Yep, we don't want to win. Just so it's clear, we do not want to invite you. Jared.
In my notes, I'm going to remember to not invite someone to golf in front of Jared again.
Yeah, that was rough.
I'll give you a quick example. I'm starting this cold plunge business. I just opened it.
Love it.
And it's a storefront. It's been open for about 6 weeks.
Feel my skin, Sean. Still cold for my cold plunge.
Ooh, I love it, dude.
I could use one right now. I'm still sweating.
Yeah, you could use that after your stair stepper.
I know.
And we've been reaching out to try to get the franchise set up. And it's like these lawyers want to charge 150 to 200 G's to set it up. It's insane for doing paperwork. So it was like racking our brains. Like, we don't want to spend 250 grand. We're already bootstrapping this thing to get started. And we have 70 people on a waiting list that want a franchise. So it's crazy. So we need to get this rolling.
72.
72 now.
Yeah.
You guys are in. So I meet this guy at a lunch, and he's like, oh, I specialize in franchises. I'm like, dude, this is like a match made in heaven. what's your Wednesday look like next week for lunch? So he's like, hey, I'm in. So we do lunch together the next Wednesday. He sits down. I was like, I got this problem. 150, 200 grand. Lawyers are just outrageous. He's like, dude, done. I've got a guy who do it for 18 grand and he's disrupting the space and he's going to do it. He's got the best law for a fraction of the cost. And so we actually just started using the guy. So it went from like 150 G's to down to 18 grand in one lunch.
How do you, because this is something, excuse me, this is something you're also good at. I know from my experience with you, you're extremely good at also following up, and I'm assuming at some point in there you also know the difference between, hey, here's someone who's genuinely being polite, who actually doesn't want to meet up with me again, versus like, oh, here's someone who seemed to like me, who wants to do something together, and also is just extremely busy, right? Like, and I think that follow-up is super important. I appreciate that you always do it with me, even when I'm not available or I cancel on you 3 minutes before. There's been other people I've met out in the wild, we'll call it, randomly, right? Super interesting, very successful. And then sometimes it may take 5 to 6 months before that person literally has enough time to meet up with you again. And I've had some great experiences where just knowing like, oh, I think the person genuinely wanted to meet up with me and they're extremely busy, like stay on it, versus like, oh, I'm annoying this person, I should just drop it, you know?
I'm going to show you the secret list at some point. You guys, it's like mysterious.
We love
it's
secrets.
Behind curtains.
All right.
But I have lists of people. Otherwise, I can't keep it up. I mean, you could do it with 10, 15 people, but when you have like a few hundred people you're trying to connect with, we're just so bad. Entrepreneurs are horrible at follow through, and they're horrible at nurturing relationships for the most part. I mean, very few are that are really good at following up.
Honestly, usually with good intentions too. I actually don't think it's. I think most of the time people have pretty good intentions anyway. When people get offended, especially from not getting somebody's time, like they need to understand. Like you're extremely busy, but you're so good at making time. But there comes a point where you have to set boundaries too, right? I'm curious, how do you set boundaries with the people that you know? It's like, hey, I want to help you, but I can't. I'm not trying to mentor you. I'm not trying to like build your business for you. I'm willing to help where I can, but there is a limit there.
Yeah.
How do you set boundaries with people?
Yeah. So I think definitely you guys are right, because you don't want to fill up your whole schedule with just noise and things that don't make sense for your business. That is the wrong path to go down. And there's certain people in there that are they'll take up your whole schedule.
Leeches.
They will just,
again, with good intentions.
Yeah.
But
Yep. So I've learned it the hard way. Like balance is so hard for us all. Like how many times we've been at home and we're with our daughter trying to have a great experience, and then we're like 200 texts you're trying to catch up. I mean, so boundaries are tough. And on one hand,
and
we're
if
supposed
your
to support.
daughters are like mine, they'll call you out on
Yeah, they call it. They know. I mean, they're screenagers, so they know what's going on, right? So I just set clear boundaries and good fences up front. I've learned it the hard way. Otherwise, they keep showing up and it's not something that's serving your interest in your business. You cannot waste your time with it. So I just like, hey, this is how we can engage. This is how it's going to work. I cannot do this, this, and this, but I can support you here. So if they go out and do the work and then they bring you to the table, they can. So there's certain, it just set up the boundaries up front. Yeah, if you don't do that.
I think a good example of how you do that too is maybe you can talk about some of these like lunches that you've been hosting, because that's also, for me, now I kind of know, there'll be moments like this or we seem to see each other at places, but there's still the like, oh, I know when I could see Shawn next. And it's like, it's at this event that he already scheduled and it's planned. Like, and it might sound weird or rude, because I think of us as friends now, but it's still great to be like, oh, that's a friend who doesn't need my every minute. And I know the opportunity that I could go hang out with them again.
Yeah. I love doing group lunches. Dude, it's like, okay, just multiply, you doing these one-on-one lunches, but you have 30 people there. I had bucked up a couple weeks ago. I had 65 there.
I know. I was so mad we missed that one, because I love those guys.
And you never know who you're going to meet. Like I did one of these in Arizona once, and I have a buddy. His name is Cole, and he looks like Uhtred. Uhtred, the guy off of. He's a Viking. I mean, he's like the guy you want to look like. He's got long, flowing hair.
He's like what Jesse, honestly, that's what Jesse sees when he looks in the mirror. He's
exactly.
Like
do you see yourself as a Viking?
Minus the long hair.
100% Jesse's
at
a
moments
Viking.
in my life.
Yeah. Did you have long hair at one point?
No, I always was.
He's messed around with it.
I always give up when I get to about the stage yours is.
Yeah. So he comes to a lunch. He happens to also be the coolest cat ever. He's got 6 kids, and he's a professional surfer and a real estate developer. And he's building a surf park in Arizona.
Is this Cole Cannon?
Yeah. Yeah, you know him?
We're great friends with Cole
Dude,
Cannon.
really
you know
well.
him?
I have spent
Okay, dude. Is he not the
many
coolest
an hour
cat?
in depositions with Cole Cannon.
Okay.
Yeah, I love him.
Coolest dude ever.
Yeah, isn't he? What am I
I
saying?
just talked to him on Saturday.
Uhtred, right?
Great. That's so funny.
So he came to a lunch down in Arizona. That's so funny, you guys. So he comes to a lunch, and we go around and we just do intros. And I asked, what's a need you have in your business? And he says, I need $70 million. That's I think I broke the record for our biggest need in the room.
He is not holding back on this surf park, huh?
Yeah, you know about it.
Oh, yeah.
And it is cost intensive.
Yeah.
A big hungry machine.
He is swinging for the fence.
It is cool, though. I mean,
It
it's
is cool,
amazing.
right? He's the guy we want to be. So anyways, there's a lady at lunch, and she's like, I can fund you around the lunch. And I was like, oh, maybe this. But apparently they're in the final stages, or at least a big chunk of it getting taken down by this contact.
This is the lady that got us kicked off the potential investors list.
Was that it? Same lady.
I'm joking.
But I was like, I hadn't heard, because I was like, that is a big ask and a big save in the room to say, hey, I can fund you. And she is way connected in the funding space, and apparently they're taking about it. So I was like, hey, if Cole, who's a busy person, is doing a development, and we've all done it, we're at home, we're like, I don't want to go to this thing. It's like I don't want to do it. But if you go, you could meet someone that could change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, it's one of those effort is underrated, right? Like it takes effort to do. Whenever anyone tells me like, oh, I'm just not good at those things, I'm like, no. It's not you're not good, that you're not willing to put the effort in it takes to get value from it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can easily go to, especially if there's 65 people there, like I bucked up. I promise you that there's people there that didn't meet one new person. They saw 3 people they recognized. They spent their time with them.
That's right.
They stayed comfortable. And then there were some people that actually were willing to like put the effort in. It's not about being an extrovert or introvert. It's not about being hopped up on caffeine at the time or whatever. It's a calculated, it takes effort to introduce yourself, to be interested in them enough to listen and to actually cultivate those relationships. I love when you meet someone that you want to follow up with. I love that, like, you set that up right there. Like that alone, as far as a networking tip, I mean, that's invaluable, because how often do you meet somebody and you're like, oh, I would love to get to know this person better. And then a week and a half goes by. You're like, does he even remember who I am? 3 weeks go by. You're like, well, now I just need to hopefully run into him again. And then 2 months later, they might not remember your name anyway, right? Because you didn't find reasons to stay relevant or to stay kind of in their view, I guess you could say. So I love that.
Shawn, do you have any tips? I was at a brunch yesterday that we brought up Jordan Pendleton. My wife and I are really good friends with him and his wife, and they were asking some questions. If you get to know me, I'm a little woo woo out there when it comes to manifesting and rewiring your brain and some of those things.
That all makes sense now.
Yeah, and they were asking me some of those things, and so I started telling them, and my wife was like, "That was weird what you told me," because part of it, I had told him in the conversation, like, oh, that's why we're friends, dude. At some point, I put your name down on a list of part of like a project that me and Kevin were getting to do. And I was like, this would be a good person to know. We're such good friends now. I had no problems like telling that we're great friends. But I think for some people, because the younger me would have felt very slimy of saying like, oh, hey, I'm getting to know someone because back then I would have thought of it as I'm getting to know this person because they get me access to something where they can get me to somewhere. And that was a big trigger for me, right? I realized eventually it was internal, but like you do a great job of this. How do you go about it so that people don't feel like you're trying to use them, right? Or getting to know them just to like take something from them?
That's a great point. I'd like to spend another hour on your woo-woo stuff.
Oh, we'll have to leave Kevin out.
We'll drink all the moon
I
water.
will bring
Kevin's
all the
out.
moon water
Just
and crystals I have.
Yeah,
and it will just
dude,
be
I'm
me
with
and
you,
Shawn.
dude. I could go days.
You guys can read my poem.
Yeah. So let me tell you about, because I get this. I actually spoke to some great door-to-door people in Kyle's company, and I talked to them about all these concepts and tips, and they're like, I did a Q&A and they're like, hey, but what do we say? Like, how do we go up to someone and what, like exactly what, to me is like, just assume that everyone would know. I love the quote from Stephen R. Covey, first seek to understand and then to be understood. Just go spend time and find out, genuinely find out what's interesting and what they're doing. What's their vision for their business? What do they want to take it? So years ago, my very first pitch, my biggest pitch to a big brand was a guy by the name of Terry Bradshaw. Mm-hmm. So this is sports, yeah.
Never heard of her.
Yeah.
Good. I knew we'd talk about sports today, Shawn.
She sounds awesome.
Yeah, she sounds amazing. So this was when he was making his transition into movies and everything else, coming more of a mega brand. And we're sitting in our room, and I worked for an asset protection lawyer, and we're like, man, what if we just did a live event, and we marketed this live event, and we got a bunch of people in the room, and they bought our asset protection products. Let's do it. And we're like, why don't we go get Terry Bradshaw? So we're looking around. So when I was a kid, I had a few like celebrity, I was a fan, like a fanboy of a few people. Terry was one of them. I'm a Bronco fan, but Terry to me was like the ultimate dude, multiple injuries, just gridiron, hardcore dude. So I was like, I'm in. I want to go pitch Terry Bradshaw. So we reached out to his agent. His agent said, hey, he's in Pittsburgh and he's at a hotel. You can go and you get 15 minutes to pitch Terry Bradshaw. And I'm like, what am I going to say in 15 minutes? So I remember flying in. It was a big hotel, tons of people in the hotel. And I cut through the people. And I go down the hall, and he's in a boardroom. I open up the door, and who's standing there, dude? Like one of my literally childhood legends, Terry Bradshaw, standing there. And I shake his hand, and I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, what do I say? I've got to pitch him in 15 minutes. And then I thought, the Stephen R. Covey, I want to first seek to understand. Because all of these big brands have their own ecosystem. And many people just say, hey, here's my ecosystem. Why don't you join my ecosystem all the time? As opposed to seeking to understand. So it's like, hey, Terry, you've been a lifelong legend to me. As a kid, I had Pittsburgh Steeler pajamas because of you with the butt flap and all that. I was like, tell me, I have a few questions. If you don't mind, just humor me and I asked him specific questions about his career. We spent 2.5 hours in that interaction. And I got to learn from Terry Bradshaw. I mean, he told me way too much information about his prostate, how he couldn't control himself, and he was doing big swaths out in his front yard of orange pee. But he told me the great stuff. He broke his back in a game. They didn't have medical, and so they strapped it. They took a door out of the locker room, strapped him to a door, put him on a commercial flight, and flew him back to a big hospital. This is like the original guy, gridiron guy. He told me all that stuff. He broke his finger, how he had to come back in the game. It's like he still came back and won. So, of course, by the end, I was like, well, this is how you're taking your brand here. This is how we fit into your world. We can get you on stage. We can promote you out to the world. We can sell your book for you. We can be part of your ecosystem. And he signed on with us, and we did 10 shows, right? But I think that's the best thing you can do is seek to understand.
Do you think, little follow-up, it was about protecting your assets, but you never involved his offensive lineman. Shawn, the offensive linemen were the ones protecting the Steelers' asset.
Right.
Poor guys. Those guys are listening to this podcast.
Yeah, they're like, hey, it's our fault.
We were the protectors.
Yeah.
I think there's two cool things in that I'd like to point out. One, I love your story because we had a similar experience, at least for me, right?
I was going to say, this is your Dion.
With one of our businesses one day.
Dion?
We ended up in a room with Deion Sanders for an hour and a half, consulting him, right? Which for me, it was a real struggle for me to not fanboy out.
Yeah, like, like get giddy.
Usually I don't care, but Trost really had to kind of keep me
do
on
an awkward
rails.
laugh.
But this was my similar, right? Like I remember just being an 8-year-old kid. Deion was my everything. And so to see that come to fruition, we talk about the manifesting some of that stuff. It was such a cool eye-opening thing for me of like, you're not that far away. At any given point, you're not that far away from like meeting someone or accomplishing something that maybe you never imagined.
Or working with someone.
100%. And then two, with your Terry Bradshaw thing, I think the key to a lot of that stuff is giving, like you said, and also like you shouldn't ever really need to take, right? You should just give as much as you can, and then when there's an opportunity to mutually share, like any transaction should be ecological, right? Like both sides should be like, oh, this works for us. And if you come into any of these relationships or people you want to meet or work with and you try and take soon, it never works. Never works.
100%. I agree.
You know, to kind of put a bow on what you were saying though, right there. So there's certain people that ask themselves, well, like, how do I become a better networker and things? I hope everyone understood the lesson of that is, especially if you're at an event where people are there to network, everyone in that room is feeling the same way you do. Hey, I hope I meet somebody new today that either I can provide value to or vice versa or whatever. So if you just go up, I'm going to give everybody the best opening line. Here's your best pickup line at a networking event. Hey, so what do you do?
Yeah.
Right? That's all you have to do. Like,
everyone is 100%
begging.
agree.
Everyone is begging to tell you what they do.
That's right. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, and if they don't, then you guys probably aren't going to work too well together anyway. And you go do that with every person in the room, and you will. And it's they're going to want to ask you what you do too, and hopefully you have a good 59-second pitch of to sum that up too. But if it's the same thing with first date. My buddies in their 30s and 40s who are still single, it's like my favorite thing in the world because I'm just like, just ask about the person, right? If you're a couple and you want to find more couples to hang out with, well, go invite somebody to lunch or to dinner and just have them talk about themselves. Like, everyone loves that. And then be interested enough to where you're actually interested in them. And then they're going to ask you what you're up to too. And it's just, it doesn't, I guess my main thing is it's not easy for anyone. It becomes easier for people who put effort into it. But when you're at a networking event, especially when you've done you do an amazing job of like setting the stage and the way you introduce people is I literally had a conversation this morning at the gym and then one when I got here and I used you as an example of how you introduce people to people. There's a skill there. But you do such a good job of making it easy that, hey, if somebody goes to one of your events and they don't meet 10 new people, that means that they literally had to put effort into not meeting people. I really believe that with the way that you set it up.
Yeah, and I agree. And exactly what you said is how I tell people to ask. Hey, tell me more about your business. What do you do? Get to know them, right? And they see that you genuinely are interested, and it'll open up the door. 100% agree. I couldn't agree more.
It's almost like Dale Carnegie wrote a whole book about this. Right?
Yeah, so business owners always say, I was like, how do you build your business? Word of mouth. But if you read anything, most business owners don't even ask. It's like word of mouth is what they're supposed to be building, but they don't ask for referrals and they don't receive referrals well. Like I refer people and I get referrals constantly. Can you imagine? Like I've got a relationship with Jesse and I'm like, I know that there's a fit with Kevin over here. I've built this relationship with depth. And I'm giving you the best compliment I can by saying, I'm going to introduce you to my friend. Most entrepreneurs do say, hey, great to connect with you. No follow through. Or they don't even respond. I'm like, I just gave you this. So the secret sauce, respond instantly. Say, edify the person. Thank you so much for referring. You're a stallion. They love to be complimented from their friends. Hey, great to meet you, Jesse. What's your schedule look like on Tuesday next week? I'd love to jump on a Zoom. Because clearly there's something that this person saw in both of us that we should get together.
And doing that, it does take some patience, but gosh, it pays off. I mean, even with us, right? Like there's a specific business that you do and a specific business that we do where we all thought that would be how we do business together. We've done nothing in that arena, but you introduced us to another business that we got involved with. And then since then, I've found myself thinking constantly about your business and looking for opportunities. I've done a couple of transfers and I'm not looking for anything. In fact, I didn't even follow up to see how they go, but like, oh, here's someone we do business with. And I bet these guys and Shawn would have something and you hand them off and let it go. And man, that stuff really comes back to you.
Yeah. It's just like we did that intro. And it worked out for you guys. Some don't work out, but that one worked out great. You guys are crushing.
Long term, if we don't make a bunch of money, we're blaming you.
Yeah, I love it.
For sure.
Bring it on.
We're not blaming you, but we're billing you.
Yeah.
Like,
send me that bill.
I'll make sure I do that because it's going to fall on you if it fails.
But soon after, you came back to me. You're like, dude, I got an intro in that same space that we've dug into, and we're like, that was a very, very good intro. That of course we were going to use that intro on building. I mean. Of course. So that's exactly right. But because I took care of a good intro, you took care of a good intro, it just leads to so much more. It'll get to where you're a magnet, and every hour I'm going to short list from a lot of people that refer people over to me. And I love getting referrals. They're manna from heaven. So if you're listening, follow up on those referrals. Use a secret sauce. You'll multiply your business.
And you'll keep getting them.
Yeah, 100%.
If you don't respond to a Shawn Finnegan text, that's your fault. That's your fault.
And not to change course too much, but I want to, when you were talking about your dad, I didn't catch. So were you born, raised in Utah? Like, I'm curious your thoughts. You know, we were all at the UFC event a couple of weeks ago. It was so fun and cool to me to like, one, just the world gets small, right, with social media and the internet. And we saw people who we know have nothing to do with the state of Utah that have great businesses in other states that I ran into on the floor there at the UFC event. And I kind of walked away just being super excited as someone who's grown up in Utah of like, and I'm from a small town, right? So even experiences like that, those aren't things I ever would have imagined as a little kid from a small rural community that like I would get to do. I'm curious your opinion, like, seeing the excitement and the movement around Utah as a whole, Salt Lake City, it's really become a cool place where you're starting to see these influential business leaders from all over the country show up in Utah regularly. That's pretty exciting to me. I'm curious your opinion on it because you've been involved in business in Utah for quite a while, you know?
Yeah, it's nuts. So people come from outside of Utah, and we think it's normal. Like in this building, you have entrepreneurs coming in, you have partners coming in. That's just a normal day. It's not normal in other markets. Like to us, we're spoiled being right here I feel like we're connected to the heart of networking. It's insane. So like I'll bring people in. I brought this guy from Detroit and he spent the day with me in my office. He's like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Like it takes me months to find someone I could go meet with.
We're playing NBA Jam and doing podcasts.
Yeah, dude,
and
exactly.
You're making money.
Dude, all these people are coming in. It's just it's an incredible place to do business, 100%. And going to the concert thing, because you'd mentioned the UFC, like I thought it was so cool that Kevin sent out a text to a group of ton of people and said, hey, we're going to do these concerts together. And I'm like, hey, I'm in. And I think it was like on a Monday or something. And when was the concert?
Like Wednesday.
Short
It's
notice.
like freaking Wednesday.
That's generous. I don't think there was that much lead.
Yeah, maybe it was like tomorrow night.
It might have been a
I'm
one-day
pretty
lead.
sure it was less than 24-hour notice.
So when you see an opportunity, like it was an absolute great time. And maybe we could talk about what we're going to do in 2 weeks.
Well, we are going to get there. So I want to know, I want to know, what else? So we're going to talk about music in a second, but what else? Are you a hobby guy? Are you a collector? Like what else are you like passionate about? First off, I love that we went in a deep dive with networking because really like hopefully everyone listening has learned a lot and everything, but also I hope they learn it just takes effort.
Yeah.
It just takes effort. It's not that you were a born networker. It was you put the effort in and you put the effort into like, following through. And it's funny how the answers are like these very simple, common sense things.
Yep.
Follow through.
Executable right now.
Ask simple questions.
Yep.
Listen to people's responses. Like, that's awesome. But yeah, so what else are you into?
So, I mean, that UFC was a great night you mentioned. So I love going to those kind of live events. It was crazy. Seeing the Warriors out there.
I also noticed multiple celebrities or people like talking about who aren't from Utah being like, I've never felt a crowd like that. I've never seen a crowd like that. Like the state loves.
If you watch the prelims in
you don't get a lot of cities where the arena is full for the prelims,
especially Vegas, right? But you go outside of Vegas, you even go to Miami, New York, wherever. The prelims, there's a lot of empty space. Man, we showed up. I thought we were going to be early. I felt like we were late to the party. Dude, that place was packed. It was like 2 prelims in, and that place was packed and loud. And the only thing I would change is the people would go, woo. It's like that's the only thing I would change about the event.
Does that sound familiar at all?
Okay, so live events.
So I just go, and then the concert thing, I'm going to go to more of those. I mean, it came at a good time for me because I really genuinely enjoy it. And I'm sitting there with you guys with Smashing Pumpkins. The temperature is perfect outside. It's an outdoor arena, and we're in the pit. It's the only place you should be in any concert is in the pit.
Agree.
Right? So we're sitting in the pit, and I remember him singing, though, he's just belting it out, Smashing Pumpkins, going strong. And I was like, why don't I do this more?
Because it takes effort.
It takes effort. It takes time. It's kind of a pain. You have to park a mile away. But when you're there, I mean, it's magical to be in the moment.
The other thing that was cool, I think you mentioned it earlier, that was cool about that for me, I had my oldest daughter there. Kevin had his second oldest daughter there. My daughter also was just like, Dad, who are all these people? Like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? How are you and Kevin friends with all these people, right? So that's also fun for me to get my daughter to be able to see some of this, which is stuff I just had no comprehension of at a young age of like, yeah, this is partially how you pay the bills and how your stuff gets bought. Of like, you got to go out and network and meet people in your community who are part of this state and become friends with them. And then also see like, it's not just about making money. The most fun part is those are all just people who are genuinely actually friends who like hanging out together. Yep. The byproduct just also so happens to be like, and you can do business together.
Yeah, I think I have 3 daughters, so I'm in a similar boat. You always wonder what your daughters or your children pick up from you. But I just looked at you two interact with your daughters and the relationship you have with them, which is nothing better than that time spent, and you've built their confidence in their life. But I think they pick away so much more than you know away from those experiences. Because like, okay, what does Dad do exactly? But now they get to be a part of it. Like my dad is connected with these guys, and they have friends in here, and like they might not tell you that, but they pick up a ton. And as some of that stuff comes out years later, you're like, oh, I remember you did this in X, Y, Z, and you end up having these daughters that are entrepreneurs and everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, my kids for sure still don't know what I do for work.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the only thing Miley picked up at that concert was Dad doesn't wear a shirt very often.
15 minutes in, you're popping that shirt off, bro.
So true. Well, I agree. We're really good dads. So I agree with you, Shawn, and I'm glad that you pointed out, because usually I'm the one who has to point that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to talk any more about how good of a dad we are?
Yeah, let's go. Let's spend another hour on that.
Okay. Well, we have a big announcement. Yeah. And this is not about your doomsday van, which I was hoping to get to, and maybe we'll end with
part two. We could shoot part 2.
Let's do part 2.
Part 2. Yeah. Part 2's in his studio.
We can do part 2 when you invite us onto your podcast.
All right, done.
You see what I did there?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. You're setting up so many second dates.
We're stepping up to a more popular platform.
Dude, he's falling through right now. He's setting up a date.
When we do your podcast next Thursday at 2 p.m.
Yes. Okay, so at lunch before the concert, we got into a little wormhole of the best concerts we've ever been to, the ones we've all had that conversation, hopefully. It just so happens there's a concert coming up on August 18th at the Complex that you're hearing it live first. And if you're listening, the nice thing, and Shawn and I agree with this, that I can't think of anyone who I know who would make the concert experience less fun. So everyone is invited. Anyone listening to this, and this is not a sponsor. This is free content. This is free advertising. But there's a concert coming up on August 18th, and it just so happens it's one of our favorite ever mosh pits we've ever been in. I know, Jesse, you're on the same page. So, Shawn, I'm going to turn the time over to you to maybe get a little vulnerable here. Yeah. Maybe get a little emotional. Open up. Tell me about your relationship with Irish folk music.
Oh my God. So I've like during COVID, if you watched Flogging Molly, So Flogging Molly during COVID, I watched every video he did. He's such a stud. He's sitting there in front of the fire, and he's an Irishman, and he's got his wife there playing. I think she's a violinist, and he's just the way he was doing it. So I watched every single thing he did during COVID, and I became even more of a fan. So I said, hey, I'm going to go to the next event. And I pictured an Irish folk, like you said. Does that sound much like a mosh pit kind of an environment? No.
No, when you show up to Flogging Molly, that crowd is not what you expect,
not
right?
ever.
Do they call him a certain something? I don't know if he has fans. What do they like? Those people in the pit were right. And so it's the ultimate venue for probably mosh pits on the planet Earth, right? This open warehouse space.
Standing room only.
Yeah.
No seats.
So I'm actually
sections.
I'm at a business event, and I have a shirt on like this and like nice sneakers, and I go to it, and it is the craziest thumping. I was shocked. And it was a fun mosh pit, to your point, but it was a banger. Big, long, round circles going on.
Everyone,
and that's why we all share one of their bands. And I was like, I'm never going to miss something like this again.
Yeah. So I don't want to say best mosh pit, because it's kind of like, what's your favorite music? It depends on what I'm in the mood for, right? But there was,
if you've never moshed before, Flogging Molly is the perfect entry. We're big guys, so maybe we don't understand.
You need to go with these two.
But It's not angry. No one's looking to beat you up.
It's a happy mosh pit.
In fact, if you get knocked to the ground, the whole pit stops and picks everyone up.
Which I did
like,
multiple times.
It is the perfect environment to like get in and have a fun time and not get beat up. It's a fun pit.
And you can
it's a happy pit.
Yeah. And you can kind of stand on the edges and have fun. You can be right in the mix and have fun and everything in between. And so the last time, we've seen him 3 times. The second time, at the end of the concert, the first one we went with our wives. I was running a half marathon the next day.
My wife had heels on, which
yeah, and it was our first time, and we just didn't know. But we couldn't not go in the pit. But it made me really dehydrated for my race. Actually, it's story of perseverance. And anyways,
that's why I took 147th place.
Yeah, worth it.
I took second to last in the half marathon, and it was not because I'm overweight.
You blame it on flogging.
I was blaming it on the mosh pit the night before. But at the end of the night, Jesse and I. So the second time we went, we just went. Jesse and I. We pre-workout. We only lifted arms the 3 days before the whole thing. We go in there at the end of the concert. We had our arms around. There was like 50 people that were just like in that pit. We all had our arms around each other, like swaying back and forth, like chanting something. I don't remember. I think I was crying. I don't even remember. My shirt couldn't have been found. Like, I think it got auctioned. I'm pretty sure it got sold on eBay before the end of the concert. Like, it was just such a fun release and great moment. And then we really like made a connection with the people there and everything. And it was just so fun. And so we're here to announce that the 3 of us, in fact,
let's go.
The 4 of us?
You in?
I went to Flogging Molly.
This is your kind of music,
school.
Jared.
Yeah, it's the punk scene.
So are you coming?
Right.
The 18th?
Oh, for sure.
Well, we got one. Now it's the 4 of us.
Yeah, so we're announcing the 4 of us are going to be there on the 18th. Everyone is invited. It's going to be fun. Please come up and say hi to us. Please come up and anyone who can knock down Jesse. I've never seen it happen in a pit.
Oh, jeez.
So Sean,
did you just put a bounty on me, dude?
Anyone who can knock down
42
Jesse.
and I'm going to get a colonoscopy after this podcast.
$100,000
on my head.
You can take down a bear, bro. I'm pretty sure you're going to be fine. Yeah.
$100,000 if you can do the impossible. But hey, I've been knocked down in one mosh pit in the last like 10 years.
Yeah.
It was at
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses, and it was during Paradise City, which it turns out he blew the whistle. Banger. He threw it in the crowd. It hit me in the back, and Jesse was like, "You almost had the whistle," and I was like, "I was pretty focused on protecting my." Anyways. So the only time I've been knocked down in the last like 10 years in a pit, I look over in this pit at Guns N' Roses, and there's literally somebody coming at me. They're 90-degree angle in the air, just helicoptering towards me.
Whoa.
Jesse had hit them so hard that that it hit me so hard that I got knocked over. It was the happiest I've ever been in a mosh pit. And then Jesse came and helped us both up, and it was.
You caused a chain reaction, apparently.
It was an accident.
Yeah.
That was the same one where that guy kept asking me to put him over his head. That was so funny.
I think there's a good way to wrap this up in a bow. Like, obviously, we love that so much, and if anything, like there's something about shared experiences that is like impossible to duplicate. The energy of a shared experience, especially like this, it's with complete strangers, right? There's something like so fun, sporting events, concerts, when the energy and the mood is right and you can like share something with people. And really, I think that's, if we could wrap up all this, what you're so good at, Shawn, is like here in this community, you're so good at bringing people together and helping them like share an experience, in business, help them feel positive about like, I got with a big group of people. Some of them were strangers. And I felt like there's a community that wants to help me. Like, there's nothing like sharing a feeling with other people. It's the best part of the world. Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Amen.
Good. Well, hey, I'm excited for the second date that you guys set up. It's good. Well, Shawn,
it will be experiential for sure, because most people will not jump in that pit. But I think you may have all inspired them today.
We got
to say, hey, I'm jumping in there.
Rob Crockett already committed.
Rob's in. Pendleton's in. Dude, just if you're nervous, you should be, but still come. It takes effort. Bring your tank tops.
Yes.
And take some pre-workout before. It'll be good. Okay, Shawn, thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys.
Honestly, this could have been 5 hours long because you're super interesting.
It.
You're great and easy to talk to, and I appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys.
Wow.